Time is March of 1775. The place is Richmond, Virginia, St. John's Church. A meeting has been called in order to discuss the further abuses of Great Britain toward the colonists. The church is full. As a sign of respect, the older gentlemen are allowed to speak first, and without exception, they speak of further reconciliation and compromise. This should be expected. They were of the elite. They had the riches, the prestige, and they knew for sure that if they got in war with Great Britain, they would lose, and thus they might well lose their life due to treason or all of their riches and their prestige. So you see, they would speak for anything that would avoid this happening. There was in the midst of this assembly a young man, Patrick Henry. He was probably mid-20s to late 20s. He had not come prepared to speak. But as he listened to these gentlemen speak of further compromise, he knew that he must speak out his own feeling and thinking regarding this matter. So he gains the attention of the president of the meeting, and thus the right to speak from the floor. Now, as he makes his way to the front of the church, I want to call your attention to his use of the English language. His vocabulary paints him as a very well-educated man who knows very effectively how to speak what it is he thinks and feels. And these are the words he spoke. Mr. President, no man thinks more highly than I do of the gentlemen who have just addressed the House. But different men often see the same subjects in different lights. Therefore, I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if, entertaining as I do, opinions of a character very opposite to theirs, I shall speak forth my own sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment. For my own part, I see it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery. And in proportion to the magnitude of the subject should be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can discharge the great responsibility which we owe to our country and to the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings. Mr. President, what means this martial array if its purpose be not to force us to submission? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motive for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all this accumulation of navies and of armies? No, sir. She has none. They are meant for us. They can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and to rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry have been so long forging. And what have we to oppose them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. What means shall we find which have not already been exhausted? We have petitioned. We have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before the throne and implored its interposition to arrest the tyrannical hands of the ministry and parliament. Our petitions have been slighted. Our remonstrances have produced additional violence and insult. Our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the foot of the throne. In vain. After all this, shall we indulge in the fond hope of peace and reconciliation? There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve inviolate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the struggle in which we have been so long engaged and which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our contest shall be obtained, we must fight. I repeat it, sir. We must fight. They tell us, sir, that we are weak, unable to cope with such a formidable adversary as is Great Britain. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be the next year or the next month? What means shall we find which have already been exhausted? We are not weak, sir, if we make a proper use of those means which the God of nature has placed in our power. 3 millions of people armed in the holy cause of liberty, and in a country such as that which we possess, are invincible by any force which our enemies can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will raise up friends to fight our battles with us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the active, the vigilant, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable. And let it come. I repeat it, sir, let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace. But there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already on the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God! I know not what others may choose, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. As he made his way back to his seat, there was an absolute silence in the place, until one by one younger men throughout the congregation rose and shouted, "To arms! To arms!" And this is how the words he spoke came to be known as a call to arms. Thank you for listening.